His once bright future had turned into an unending nightmare. Mama Shola, pleased that her plans were unfolding perfectly, decided to visit Bidemi's mother, Mama Tinu, one day. Her face was calm and seemingly concerned, but her intentions were anything but kind. "How is Bidemi doing?" she asked innocently. Mama Tinu sighed deeply, her eyes filled with sadness. "She's going through so much. I just want her to be happy again." Mama Shola nodded, masking her satisfaction. With a sarcastic tone, she said, "I thought you said she brings good luck. So, what's happening now?" Mama Tinu's face turned red with anger. "Why did you come here pretending to care? You should have just laughed at me instead," she shouted, driving Mama Shola out of her home. Mama Shola left, but she was satisfied with the chaos she had created. Her curse was working just as she had intended, and she felt victorious. Meanwhile, Bidemi began to feel a growing suspicion. The constant losses, the strange setbacks, Ayo's sudden coldness, it all seemed too much to be a coincidence. Desperate for clarity, she turned to God, praying fervently for answers. She poured out her heart, asking for divine intervention, and for the first time in weeks, she felt a faint glimmer of hope, but she didn't know that the worst was yet to come. While Bidemi clung to the hope that her prayers might bring a solution, the darkness that had enveloped her life was only just beginning to unfold. Despite the growing tension in her home, Bidemi clung to hope. Her prayers became her lifeline. Every morning, she knelt before God, tears streaming down her face as she begged for peace and answers. It seemed her prayers were working, as Ayo occasionally returned to his usual self, but not for long. One evening, he came home with flowers, something he hadn't done in months. "We'll be okay, Bidemi," he whispered as he handed them to her. For a fleeting moment, she believed him. Though life was far from what it used to be, no mansion, no wealth, things began to feel a little smoother. They lived a modest life, often scraping by. Determined to help, Bidemi decided to start making hair to earn some money and support Ayo. However, some villagers refused to patronize her, making her efforts even more challenging. Before she got married, Bidemi's hairdressing skills were the pride of the village. Her deft fingers could craft intricate patterns, and women would line up just to have their hair done by her. Now, they avoided her as if her presence carried a curse. Only a handful of customers came, and even then, it was only after much pleading on Bidemi's part. "Please, I beg you," she would say, her voice breaking. "Let me plait your daughter's hair. I promise no misfortune will come to your home. If anything happens, you can hold me accountable." Some reluctantly agreed, not because they believed her words, but because of pity and the undeniable skill of her hands. The few coins she earned from those sessions barely covered the cost of food. Many nights, Bidemi and Ayo went to bed hungry, their stomachs rumbling with the weight of their struggles. As the days went by, the weight of Ayo and Bidemi's struggles grew heavier. Ayo had tried his hand at countless ventures, each beginning with a flicker of hope but ending in crushing failure. He borrowed tools to clear land for farming, rented a space to trade goods, and even tried petty trading in the village market. Yet each attempt was met with inexplicable setbacks. Storms destroyed his crops, goods spoiled overnight, or customers simply didn't come. Amid this turmoil, Mama Tinu, Bidemi's mother, could no longer bear to watch her daughter suffer. She had some money saved up, left over from the days when Ayo used to gift her cash during his visits and earnings from her provision store. However, her store was now running dry due to the demands of supporting Ayo and Bidemi. The money was meant to keep her business afloat and serve as a safety net in emergencies. Yet, seeing the desperation in her daughter's eyes and the struggle in Ayo's efforts broke her heart. Mama Tinu knew she had to act, even if it meant risking her own stability. At first, Mama Tinu refused to help Ayo and urged Bidemi to leave him, but Bidemi stood her ground and refused to abandon her husband. Frustrated, Mama Tinu stopped visiting or offering them any assistance. However, she couldn't bear the shame and mockery of the villagers who whispered about her daughter's suffering. Reluctantly, she decided to give them another chance. She thought perhaps giving Eo money to start a business would help him regain his footing. Maybe this time would be different, she often told herself. But each attempt ended in failure, leaving her drained and weary. Yet, despite her exhaustion, she resolved to try once more. One evening, Mama Tinu visited Eo and Bidemi's house. Bidemi was stunned to see her mother, as it had been so long since Mama Tinu's last visit, ever since she warned her daughter to leave Eo. Mama Tinu sat down in their nearly empty house and asked Bidemi to call Eo. Bidemi hesitated but eventually went into the bedroom to fetch him. Moments later, the couple returned, and Mama Tinu began to speak. "My children," she said, her voice trembling with emotion, "I cannot sit and watch you suffer anymore. I have some money saved up." She held tightly to the small bundle of cash she had hoarded over the years, much of it from the days when Eo was wealthy and would give her gifts. "I was saving it for a rainy day," she continued, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Now, it is clear that the storm has arrived. It's not much, but I believe it will be enough to start a proper business," Mama Tinu said, her voice steady but filled with determination. Eo looked at her, shame clouding his face. "Mama, you have done so much for us already. I can't take what you've saved for yourself. What if things go wrong again?" Mama Tinu placed a firm hand on his shoulder. "Eo, don't think much of it. I'm doing this for my daughter." Eo stood there, speechless, as she continued. "I may not have much, but I cannot eat while my daughter goes hungry. Take this money, and let us trust God to bless your efforts." Bidemi held her mother tightly, tears streaming down her face. "Mama, you've always been my rock. I promise we'll make this work. We won't let your sacrifice be in vain." With the money, Eo decided to start a small poultry farm on the outskirts of the village. He used it to buy chicks, feed, and materials to build a modest coop. For a few weeks, things began to look up. The chicks grew quickly, and Eo's stress seemed to melt away. He even started smiling again, his spirit lifted by the glimmer of success. But disaster struck unexpectedly. One morning, Eo woke up to find nearly all the chicks dead, their tiny bodies scattered across the coop. Panicked, he rushed to the village elder, known for his knowledge of farming. The elder examined the scene but could find no explanation. "It's as if a curse has been placed on you," he said quietly, shaking his head. Defeated, Eo returned home, his shoulders slumped, and placed the few remaining coins on the table before Bidemi. "I failed again," he whispered, his voice breaking. "I'm cursed. No matter what I try, nothing works." The news spread quickly through the village, and Mama Tinu heard it from the market women, their whispers laced with mockery and judgment. Her anger flared, and without hesitation, she stormed to Eo and Bidemi's home. She didn't bother knocking, her frustration propelled her straight through the door. Bidemi, busy cleaning the kitchen, turned sharply at the sound of her mother's voice cutting through the stillness of the house.